Alright, welcome back. This is Nevaduck with another tips and tricks video. I'm going to go over one of my builds. This is my Mace tank and what is it called? The Witchwork staff. So I got a tank build and I can couple that with a support build. Good for random dungeons. Semi okay for PvP, not necessarily the best. But you can change stuff around to be useful. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how I work this build, kind of go over it real quick. You have a few options for food. You can go straight health. A lot of people do this. I don't think it's your best option, especially if you're running Gigantify or if you're running resistance potions and you have a halfway decent healer. I much rather run the omelet, even though I don't get any bonus from the cast times. I do get cooldown reduction. Cooldown reduction helps for quicker pulls, to get set up quicker for big ones, stuff like that. So it's also a good thing, viable option. And then if you're just running random dungeons that you can face roll, definitely go with like Trout or something that just brings back your energy regen quicker. Your healthy regen, I should say. I do that. This is usually my setup right here. Either one of these three foods, whichever I've got, and I go from there. We got somebody coming in, so hopefully he doesn't try to pull all these. I use Ballista support for both builds. I use this for when I'm tanking. I use this for when I'm not tanking and I'm doing support. So reduce damage when I'm tanking, increase CC when I'm not, and I'll show you why in just a moment. I use the Guardians, Grandmaster Guardian, when I need to reduce damage. I rarely use Taunt because I usually get aggro on several mobs really quick and easily. I use Toughness, again, reduce the damage coming in, and then also use this when you're tanking. Use this when you're not tanking. This helps reduce the mob's health, so you kill things quicker. Then I use the Night Boots. I use the Shield for both builds, and then I use the Toughness, which reduces the damage taken for my tank build, and then I use the increased CC for my Arcane build. You could use this if you're in PvP. Actually, I'll go with the PvP stuff afterwards. But the shield is good to get out of the way. You can use that to jump to one of your teammates or to jump to mobs to engage. It increases threat as well. So not only does it give a shield to anybody it hits and yourself, it also increases how much stretch you get as well. So it's a good opener. On my Mace, I run the AoE, Threatening Smash, so just as long as their mobs are in front of me, does a little AoE right out front, as you can see. And then I use Air Compressor to group them up. If I'm not, if we're on a boss fight and we need the extra damage, I would switch to this. This gives me more damage. PvP, I'd switch to the Snare Charge. And then also I've got my leap here, and then usually I use this just by default because a stun every once in a while just reduces the damage that you take, so it's not a bad thing. Always run with a shield. I just use a regular shield. I try to do inexpensive builds, and really this royal helmet is pretty expensive. You're better off just doing 2 or 3 or 4 the city dungeons where you get the this thing right here, the expeditions, where you get these sigils, so it makes your build cheaper. So if you earn the sigils, it's much better. Always run a Martlock cape. You could do Limehurst with the Arcane build if you're running low on energy, but the extra defense is huge. It'll save you a lot. So the Air Compressor is something that groups up the mobs around me when I'm running the Witchwork staff. Again, this is a pretty cheap item right here. You've got this right here, which does the same thing as Air Compressor, except for you can target it on the ground so you don't pull the mobs towards yourself. And then you have a bunch of utility options depending on what your group needs right here. And then you have more shields. So you're basically a shield bot, and then you can funnel. Well, I'll go over this in just a minute. But let me show you what I can do right now. So I'm going to use my trout, make sure I got energy coming in. I'm going to use the Gigantify because I'll need that to run away because I'm not going to be able to kill these mobs. So usually I do an opener and I'll either leap in or use my boots. Oops, hold on 1 second. My gamepad out here. Alright. So if I use my boots, I will go in. I do my air compressor, move them all up. I do my meatball, and then my AoE like that. And that's pretty much enough for me to get so much aggro on them. Even when you have your big AoEs coming out and stuff, they will not pull off. So again, the order is engage either with this or the shield charge. Use your air compressor to group them up. Drop your meatball or ballista support fire on top of them to stun. And then do your threatening slash, so you position yourself so you hit all the mobs. And even if they're not attacking a certain mob that you have, they will rarely pull off you. But the key thing is grouping them up. So this is where that cooldown reduction helps, because you're going to clear the mobs probably in about 20-25 seconds. So 30 seconds is not quite right to get it pulled off every single pull. So definitely use the cooldown reduction, it does help. And then again, this meatball. And then if you get into a huge pull, you can pop in Feeble Ore, and anything inside this aura right here will do less damage on you. So you can do that, plus the Gigantify potion if you really get in trouble. And again, with the passive stun every 5 hits, and then also with your meatball to stun as well, it's pretty easy to survive. Remember as well, if you need to give your healer just a little bit of buffer room to get some spells off, you can always jump to your back line with this by the shield charge. That'll create some gap between you and whatever's attacking you, make it a lot easier to let the healer top you off. So that's my main build. Then if I'm running support, sometimes I'll run a shield, sometimes I'll run a book. But this is a fun build as well because it's kind of the same concept, almost identical. The only difference is you can target this on the ground. So say for instance I want to group those up, drop that on the ground, that groups them up. Oop. Drop a meatball on them, don't miss like I did, and you'll be fine. Reset the mobs here. Alright, so that's huge too. A lot of times when I'm running the witch build, I'll use the wind wall for positioning to help keep the mobs off the squishies. And it's a pretty straightforward build. I'd switch everything over to CC duration. Oops, that was already on CC duration, not defensive. So yeah, everything will be on CC duration for this. I might go with a Limhurst chest. On here you got several options. You can deal damage and increase the enemy's damage taken by 23% for 5 seconds, which is also pretty big. If you've got a pretty big DPS player in the group, you can just funnel them energy if they have issues with energy, because when you're targeting a teammate, you'll actually just pump energy into them. It's awesome. Or if you have a healer that's struggling and having to pump out some big heals, you can top them off on energy. Or you can drain energy from the other team, more of a PvP option, but not bad. This right here, Empowering Beam, Channel Beam, which increases the damage of any ally. The longer the beam is channeled, the stronger the damage buff becomes. Starting with 20% and going up to 100%. Channeling lasts for 5 seconds. This is another really good damage buff if you don't have anybody that's struggling with mana. Usually your big DPS, like your, I think the Fire Staff is pretty mana intensive. Sometimes healers are pretty mana intensive. But really energy equals damage a lot for a lot of classes, so they kind of dump their damage and then they wait for it to all come back. So the quicker they get their energy back, the quicker they do more damage. This one right here is just a straight buff for damage. This one right here, Cleanse, really good for PvP. Also gives them a little bit of a movement speed for 5 seconds as well. So if you got a tank going in, or a tank trying to get out, you can hit them with that and it'll give get a little bit farther, and then a purge for the enemy, which is also good if you're. These are more PvP talents right here, if you ask me. You also have other options here. Every 5 active spells, your resistances are increased. Not that great in PvE. Would work okay for PvP. And then also aggressive caster. Basically every 4 active spells, you get a buff for. You get a cast speed buff for 40%. I usually leave it on the every normal attack restores 3 energy. The other option is you can do every 5 spells attacks your next normal attack will silence the enemy. So I kind of use flow back between all those. I do like tanking, but there are some times where you just get sick of tanking. But if you don't have a damaged character, or you don't want to level a second set of gear, and you just want to roll along because there's already a tank, be the 7th man in the team doing random dungeons, and people will love you when you start channeling all this mana back into them. You're popping shields, so the healers got less of a break. Shit doesn't go down. You can be the one that helps top people off and really take care of the group. But lots of fun. Really good build, a lot of potential. A few things you can do. Say for instance, if your group is trying to pull and they're just a little bit too far away, just group them up, drop the meatball. You're not going to be able to kill this. Run away, buddy. But anyways, that's the build. Let me know in the comments what you think. I'll put a link to my other builds down below. And I don't think this guy understands we aren't going to do this. But anyhow, I hope you guys are having a great day. And Lightress, if you ever see this video, you famous, bro.